Today's conversation is letting go of limiting beliefs to dwell in and from your vision, that which you desire to see brought forth, the success, the end result. On the journey to the realization of the vision, we can encounter what we call limiting beliefs, limiting interpretations, limiting assumptions, limiting perspectives that cause us to delude ourselves to believe that we are not, in our essence, divine perfection. This journey of identifying these limiting beliefs, interpretations, in relation to ourselves, in relation to our vision, in relation to all elements on the journey that is revealed to the vision, is called purification of mind. Probably heard me mention this before, purification of mind. Now I'm going to refer back to a few videos ago in which I talked about the magic of flow, and that one of the best ways to reveal yourself is to also commit to a vision, as in commit to a goal. What is it that you desire? On the journey to revealing your goal, we go through what the Kybalion refers to as the stage of involution, or in the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, which I will refer back to that video, is called autotelic, becoming one with, seeing ourselves in harmony and in relation to our vision right now. What separates us between our vision and where we are right now, and the journey of harmony, flow to the vision, is our limiting beliefs. And the limiting beliefs are self-imposed limiting beliefs. Now, the word self-imposed means, in this context, we had believed ourselves to be a certain way. And we recognize that we are not actually that way. Who we really are is one with the vision, as in we have the ability to bring forth our vision. We all know what we have to do. Once you have a vision, you follow your intuition and you're guided from within to the realization of that vision. Any kind of friction that is found in between is our own fears, doubts, and indecision-based limiting beliefs, which we had acquired and assimilated on the journey, and now we have the power to release. So that's what we're going to discuss even further. So here's a quote from the Kybalion, in which they talk about the stage of involution, and we're going to tie it into the concept of autotelic. Autotelic being one with your vision. That means you wake up each day, you do the things that you know you have to do, you're in flow, you're in harmony, you experience less and less doubts, indecision, and fear on the journey in relation to your destination. And if you do, you identify what these are and you go through the process of purification of the mind. Otherwise, we refer to this as reprogramming the subconscious mind, or changing the concept of self, or becoming the true self, or releasing aspects that are not part of the ideal self-image, or not being in the ideal state of mind. It is stated, the Hermetic teachings concerning the process of the mental creation of the universe are that at the beginning of the creative cycle, the all, in its aspects of being, projects its will towards its aspect of becoming, and the process of creation begins. This process is called the stage of involution, in which the all becomes involved or wrapped up in its creation. Otherwise, we refer to this as divine will being expressed through you. And as Neville Goddard states, God speaks in the medium of desire. So you have a desire, which then is converted over to, as Napoleon Hill refers to, the burning desire. And the burning desire is from a place of affirmation, a lighthearted conviction that what you desire to be brought forth will be brought forth. As Neville Goddard puts it, it's already done. And what we're looking at here in this outer world through the five-sensory integration is a reflection of the journey and the degree of ability to stay committed to the vision, because you could change the vision anytime you want. But as you remain committed to the vision, you will observe as the thoughts, the behaviors, and the outer world changes occur to reflect your vision. And this is happening through you. You are the interpreter and the molder of this reality. This process is believed by the Hermeticists to have a correspondence to the mental process of an artist, writer, or inventor who becomes so wrapped up in his mental creation as to almost forget his own existence and who, for the time being, almost lives in his creation. So we're moving through states, and as a result of moving through states of mind, we are experiencing the five sensory experience from the perspective of that state of mind. Now, based on this, we have the power to select any desired state or the vision of that which we want to see brought forth, and recognize that we are actually, via divine will, aligned to that vision, and the only resistance that can occur within ourselves is our interpretations of ourselves in relation to what shows up on the journey. So then we have an opportunity while on the journey to go through the process which I refer to a lot as purification of the mind, identification of limiting fears, doubts, and indecisions-based interpretations, as well as assumptions, beliefs, and perspectives that we are assigning to the five sensory experience that creates unnecessary complexity and convolution in relation to people, environment, circumstance, and information on the journey. Failing to recognize that by allowing ourselves to go into a state of flow and maintaining it and becoming autotelic through the cause and effect reflection of the journey, which will relate back to the flow process, we will be able to maintain what we would call lighthearted faith and conviction that our vision will be brought forth and bring it forth from a place of flow. This is also referred to in the studies of flow as autotelic, as stated here by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He says, the autotelic experience, or flow, lifts the course of life to a different level. Alienation gives way to involvement, enjoyment replaces boredom, helplessness turns into a feeling of control, and psychic energy works to reinforce the sense of self instead of being lost in the service of external goals. When experience is extrinsically rewarding, life is justified in the present, instead of being held hostage to a hypothetical future gain. This is not referring to the denial of that which you want to see brought forth. This is what we refer to as burning desire plus detachment from outcome. It's a state of mind. It's knowing that it's done, and then all on your journey is part of the unfoldment, which includes your behaviors, which includes your experiences on the journey, to that particular experience. As a result, you are not desperate, needy, creating a void or unnecessary friction in the mind, which is only based on past interpretations. And as a result, we become autotelic and experience this, what is stated in the Kabbalion, the stage of involution, recognizing that all is happening through and from us via the subconscious mind, which is a result of what we have been believing to be true, assuming to be true, and interpreting via the five senses, as well as from our imagination, the sixth sense. So we find these inaccurate interpretations, and we go through the process called purification of the mind. To work with this, we'll be reflecting back on the elements of flow, as discussed in the video. I recommend watching that video. I'll put a link in the description, as well as the Robert Dilts model, which is a very powerful model that helps me simplify things and helps me when I work with consulting deals to simplify everything in relation to the leadership attributes, the steps on the journey to creating entrepreneurial success, as well as the different aspects of the entrepreneurial journey, such as the business model, the strategy, the time productivity, the way business operates, the business model, the marketing strategies, and the list goes on and on and on. All of these elements can be fit into different layers of the Robert Dilts model. For example, you have your vision, that which already exists in the imagination, you want to see brought forth in the environment, reflected here in this world. You have the identity, which is the self-image. You have your values and beliefs, as in how you believe reality to work, which is what we're going to identify through this process. Capabilities, as in the skills or the behaviors, which happen automatically, one with. For example, say you are an artist or you are involved with public speaking. For me, I'm a big fan of public speaking and doing consulting and communication. That's a capability. Now, I learned certain kinds of abilities through the various books and experiences that I've had, but most of the expression happens through what we call authentic expression of the true identity or the vision. We know when we're not in alignment with this authentic expression, not allowing it to flow through us, when we feel a sense of stifleness, a sense of tension, a sense of disconnect, not one with the outer world experience. We have fears, doubts, and indecision-based thinking. We then ask ourselves, what is it that is preventing us from being in the state of involution? or maintaining autotelic. The thought process becomes apparent through inner dialogue, or you can work with somebody to identify. It could be things like perhaps there was a certain time in your life where you expressed yourself. And when you expressed yourself, somebody said something to you in which you interpreted as you shouldn't express yourself. Now, you formed a belief about yourself that expression leads to shame. Now, upon reflection of that, we recognize that that particular experience was an isolated incident. That may not occur again, that most likely won't occur again, and because you're one with the vision, and that which you desire to be brought forth is for you, this does not apply in this particular circumstance. In other words, you now have the ability to look back at that circumstance and change how you relate to that particular circumstance. And as a result of changing that subconscious aspect within ourselves in relation to that circumstance, we'll find ourselves behaving differently or communicating differently or expressing differently in the current circumstance. And the same is to be said about how we work with behaviors. In other words, if you say, I'm not being productive, or I'm not doing the right thing, or I've got bad behaviors, we ask ourselves, where do these come from and what do they mean? And as a result of identifying where they come from and what they mean, you can either go to where they come from or what they mean. You'll be able to change the interpretation. The key is changing the interpretation. What we do is we find the accurate interpretation. The accurate interpretation is simply, does this belief serve me about my behavior in relation to my vision? For example, one of the behaviors that we find in the entrepreneurial journey is clients are not focusing on what is important for business growth, such as marketing, selling, and innovation. When we ask them and say, why is it that you don't focus on these activities? We'll find that they have a distorted view of relationship regarding receiving money or compensation. And as a result of having a conversation about how they relate to money, for example, we say that the priority is to bring the benefit over to the client. And the purpose of the business, one of the important elements of the entrepreneurial journey, is to create products and services that can benefit the lives of others. Part of that is to be able to communicate effectively to the prospect in a way that helps them bridge the connection between the product and service and the pains, needs, desires, frustrations that the prospect is experiencing in a way that they understand. The solution is found in the product. And they're not able to connect these dots this way because they had a different relationship surrounding money and value. As a result of changing this interpretation, which is values and belief, which is also related to the identity, they now start to behave differently. The same is to be said about environments. There are many different examples, but those ones right there will help articulate this very important point here from the Kybalion. It says, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. And we talked about law in the last video, and I recommend watching it. Effect in the outer world and cause in mind. Chance is but a name for law, not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. So we may not currently understand the circumstance of the outer world reflection as to how it relates to the cause of thought within, but this is where we can work with the elements of flow to help us on this journey. Number 1 is a clear vision. Number 2, reporting and feedback. Number 3, harmony between challenge and skill. Number 4 is action and awareness becoming one. Number 5, distractions excluded out of consciousness. Number 6, time distortion. And number 7, the activity and person becomes autotelic. So let's look at this and relate it back to what we're discussing. So again, the premise is that we want to be one with our vision. We want to be autotelic. That means the day-to-day journey, you experience what we call 5 sensory to 6 sense integration, which I discussed in the last video. Recommend you watch it. And the idea is you flow towards the vision. You know what to do, what to say, how to do it. But if for whatever the reason there's friction along the way, we can find the interpretation which is within if we change, by changing how we relate to it, either our belief or assumption, number 1. Number 2, accepting it the way it is. I mean, deep peace and acceptance, real acceptance. Or number 3, changing it in some shape or form. We'll be able to navigate through that and maintain the ideal state of mind or flow state of mind. So that stated, we're looking at the effects in the outer world and the cause within. And we're going through the journey. We already have a clear vision. And going through your day-to-day, you're getting immediate reporting and feedback. And you may experience challenges on the journey, stress, frustration. It's important to reflect at the end of the day, or as much as you'd like, to go through a process which I call cause and effect reflection, which is simply journaling or noting down the different challenges that you're having in which you experience chaos or interpretations that create unnecessary void, frustration, stress, disbelief, any of those things, so that you could reflect at the end of the day and saying, is this related to my vision? Is this related to the identity? It could be related to the concept of self, how you believe yourself to be, which has been shaped based on experiences, or more accurately put, interpretation of those experiences, as well as the identification that we have to the vision. In other words, we call this self-confidence. Self-confidence is seeing the vision as you right now. We call this fourth dimensional thinking. I'm going to recommend watching my video on fourth dimensional thinking. It is speaking as if within your own mind, as the unseen is seen right now, and recognizing that all that exists is the eternal now, and that everything is in harmony and in contribution to your vision. Now, if you can maintain that, then what I'm referring to when it comes to autotelic, or as they refer to in the Kabbalion, involution, that becomes a natural way of being. It's a state of mind. Now, from that, we have to remember that this is a journey. So we all go through the journey of what we call purification of the mind. And depending on where we are on the journey, we have gone through the cause and effect reflection, as we all have, to some degree, and maybe to a large degree, removing this disempowering programming. And thus, when we have a vision, it's easier to bring it forth because we maintain the flow all the way to the destination. And if it seems more challenging, then perhaps we have more interpretations that we want to release from in the mind, which are the cause that is causing us to feel a certain kind of experience, the emotional reaction to five sensory experience, which causes the reactivity, and then the reactivity further binds itself to that same experience in reality, recreating it again, again, and again. Now, if you got a clear vision, then that's a great place to start, and which is why I always recommend having a clear vision, or having a vision and then clarifying it on the journey, but having a destination where you can orient yourself towards. Because then as a result of that, you have reporting and feedback. It's just a matter of the different experiences that you're having on the day-to-day journey. Number 3 is you can experience challenge, or a lot of challenge. And if you're striving for entrepreneurial success, then challenge might be a regular part of the journey of creating success. Because if you look at it this way, no matter where you are in business, there's always more challenges that can occur. If you want to grow your business further, you're now going into areas that might be unknown to you right now, but they will be known. And as you understand them, you may experience challenge. So when it comes to challenge, we can look at it from a few perspectives. Number 1 is when we say knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. So as you have acquired the knowledge and applied it and gained experience, you have more wisdom, and so you experience less challenge because you have more skill. We also look at it from the perspective of faith, which Neville Goddard refers to as loyalty to the unseen reality, and our ability to maintain faith will help us overcome the challenge. So we could say that reference experience plus faith is a good optimal combination to have on the journey. So thus, when we're reflecting at the end of the day and we identify limiting beliefs, we can go back to reference experiences and say, when have I proven this particular circumstance wrong? For example, perhaps one of the frictions that you have on the journey is no matter how hard I try, I don't seem to be making any progress. You can reflect back on your past and you can say, when have I had this similar experience in different stages of my journey when I have brought forth previous success? And as a result of reflecting back on this previous experiences that you've had, which has been, you could say, empowering, you can then reinterpret the experience that you're having right now, where you feel that you have a disconnect to your vision. The same is to be said about actions and awareness becoming one. So day to day, we want to feel more one with the journey to the vision. So one with means what is our inner conversations, our interpretations, our assumptions and beliefs about the different experiences that we're having each day in relation to people, environment, circumstance, and information, and what is creating, based on these interpretation, disconnect, and how can we change it? And the way we change it is through self-talk, through revision, through subconscious mind audios, or something similar to that, working with imagination, or environment, certain environmental changes. And I recommend watching my video I did on the 4 modalities. I'll put a link in the description. Now, as we identify what these elements are, which is found through what we experience challenge, we then realize that challenge is an opportunity to build ourselves a deeper level of connection with being autotelic, more in flow, and so we resist from the excessive reactivity of challenge. As a result of changing these beliefs and assumptions, reassigning them to accurate interpretation, we'll find ourselves one with what we are doing or performing or living each day to the fulfillment of what we desire. And as a result, we'll also find that distractions are excluded out of consciousness. Fears, doubts, and indecision-based elements that show up, in which we call them distractions, based on outer world elements, we say these things are distracting, we'll find that the source and the cause of the distraction is still within. It's our interpretation, which is a subconscious need, that is governing our attention over to those elements, which we call distractions. Now, what you'll also notice is what we call time distortion. So time may speed up and slow down, and you might notice that the journey seems completely flow-based, almost like it's happening through you automatically, and you just show up each day. And you seem to be producing results, and one who has this, we sometimes refer to as the person is in the zone, that they have been in the zone for the last few weeks, for the last few months, for the last few years. They've been connected with their vision, and they have been in the zone. The zone, or this experience of time distortion, is also a reflection of what work the person has either consciously or subconsciously done to the interpretations within. So 2 ways of going about doing this. If you commit to flow and maintain your flow, these things happen automatically as you develop this ability, which is an inherent ability within the journey to the destination. Or, which I recommend both, is combining it, actually dedicating time each day to reflect upon what you have noted throughout the day that will be disempowering interpretations of yourself in relation to environment, circumstance, information, your vision, so that you can identify, reflecting back. Is it an interpretation related to identity? Is it a belief or value that I hold that is inaccurate, that is not in harmony, that may have served me before, but now it does not serve me? Is it something to do with my capability, my ability to develop the capability? Do I have fears, doubts, and indecision that is being revealed through my behaviors of how I communicate with others, on how I go through the day-to-day? Is it certain habits that have been brought forth that are the symptoms of certain kinds of interpretations? For example, I'll share something that for me has helped me. One of the things that I would notice is that I would have the tendency to procrastinate in earlier stages of my journey. Now, as a result of this procrastination, I started to put certain kinds of tools and systems in place, technological systems, to prevent, or so I thought, would prevent those procrastination habits from occurring. Now, what I ended up finding was even by using those tools, I would still procrastinate. So upon deeper reflection and going into my subconscious mind, I recognized that the source was not feeling worthy of the vision. In other words, I had the vision at the time, but for whatever the reason may be, I didn't feel that I was worthy of the vision. Now, this was something in my identity, which was based on past experience, and I used the concept of revision, of rewriting the past, which I'll put a link in the description to that video, to go in and change my interpretation of past experiences in which I felt lack of worthiness. Now, as a result, I noticed that the behaviors change. I found myself automatically doing those things that I know I had to do to produce the results. So in other words, no matter what tool or outer world change that I happen to do, without going in and finding the identity level attribute that contributed to that behavior, I was going around in circles. Now, the result of doing this, as we continue on this journey, we find ourselves becoming more autotelic. So this is otherwise referred to as the inner work, and we're communicating the same kind of inner work that is spoken by many others, and there's different modalities for doing the inner work, but essentially it leads to the same things. What we think and how we interpret in relation to the vision, in relation to ourselves, in relation to the journey, and everything that shows up on the journey. The interpretations. What happens when we change the interpretations? So, by working with the concept of flow, or these elements in flow, we can use them as a guide to, number one, be in flow, and number two, reveal what breaks our flow. So you've probably heard me mention this many times. I say, Figure out what breaks your flow and recognize that it's not necessarily the thing in the outer world that breaks your flow, but it's the interpretation to that thing in the outer world. And you can, if you want, change the thing in the outer world, or you can change your interpretation to that thing in your inner world, which will change as how you experience the journey from maintaining flow, regardless if that thing, whatever it is, shows up again. So having a clear vision, reporting and noting different things that you experience on the journey that we would call breaking flow to reflect at the end of the day. Understand that challenge is an opportunity to acquire a new skill. Notice that as you are doing this and changing these beliefs and assumptions at the end of the day and maintaining your flow, you'll find yourself deeper involved in what you're doing. Action and awareness become one. You'll find yourself automatically excluding distractions out of consciousness. Thus, we would call this maintaining the ideal state of mind. You'll have the greater ability to maintain the ideal state of mind. And as a result, time distortion. Now, with regards to time distortion, there's different levels of flow. There's a deep level of flow depending on the activity you're doing, deep engagement. And there's maybe more of a less focused state of flow, which is still very lighthearted throughout the day. And notice how when you love what you do and do what you do from a place of love, you'll notice that you find that time goes by faster because you don't want the experience to end. This is a form of time distortion. You'll also notice that you might find yourself so engaged in your creative expression that time seems to slow down. Now, this whether time speeds up or slow down is an effect of the consciousness engaged in the vision and allowing the vision to express through you. And then you understand this part here. The activity and the person becomes one. So again, let's reflect back on what they said in the Kabbalion. The Hermetic teachings concerning the process of the mental creation of the universe are that at the beginning of the creative cycle, the all, in its aspect of being, projects its will toward its aspect of becoming, and the process of creation begins. This process is called the stage of involution, in which the all becomes involved or wrapped up in its creation. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich refers to this as infinite intelligence. We have a connection to infinite intelligence, and infinite intelligence is being expressed through us. Now, this is not something new. This is something we've all experienced on the journey, in different stages of our journey, in different times of our journey, and with different things that we were doing. And it's important to reflect back on those experiences and cross-reference it with what was being discussed here, so that you can realize that you have the ability to not only do it again and again and again, but make this a natural way of being, which, by the way, it is a natural way of being. So it's stated, this process is believed by the Hermeticists to have a correspondence to the mental process of an artist, writer, or inventor. So if you're an entrepreneur or an inventor, then you'll notice that what I'm saying to you resonates with your experiences on the journey. Now, this information that I'm sharing with you has been a result of, since I had transitioned out of my IT business in 2013, a deep reflection on working with many hundreds of different entrepreneurs, artists, writers, creatives who turned their creative expression into a endeavor, a lifestyle, a business, a entrepreneurial journey. And upon cause and effect reflection of what was going on with them as well as myself and cross-referencing, we're able to form these understandings here. So it's important then to recognize, in grand summary, that although it may seem abstract that the divine will or the infinite intelligence expresses through you, we can bring ourselves into this state of mind by combination of what was discussed here, as well as the flow-based video, and experience it for ourselves, and then commit to maintain it more so each day as we move harmoniously towards our vision. That way, you will go through the purification of the mind, or as we refer to this as the inner work, more from a place of flow rather than a place of force. A lot of times when we think of inner work, we think stress, force, and changing attributes of ourselves can come off as being difficult. However, we have to recognize that the true self, the true identity, is divinely pure. All we're doing is removing attributes that we believe to be true about ourselves that is not in harmony with that true self, which is reflective of all things possible. The vision exists. If it exists in my imagination, then I can bring it forth. It happens in and from me, And then the concept, like maintaining the ideal state of mind, will become even easier. So I trust that you enjoyed this video. Play it regularly so that way you can reflect back to the elements as well as the nuances that were covered in here and relate it back to your journey, because as you find yourself in flow and more autotelic each day, this information will stand out even more and you'll further unravel your own insights and perspectives that will be in contribution. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.